it's going to go on the YouTube channel for my online students if I manage not to trip over this and throw the computer on the floor. I'll have to not be as spastic as I usually am. Okay, so we ended class on Tuesday talking about location, right? So that's the L in Mr. Help, so we got almost all the way through it, and then of course I ran out of time like it happens so often. So okay, movement, what's next? Region. Human environmental interaction, location, and place. So place is the one that we haven't done yet, and that's the one that we're going to start with. So I mean, we review those really quickly, and remember, we've had a quiz over the Mr. Help stuff, the first part of the Mr. Help stuff, but you need really good notes from that information because that's some of the major stuff that you're going to use for your analysis that we do in Project 1, where you are going to pick a movie or a TV show or a video game, or there's lots of different choices, and you're going to analyze it, categorize stuff and write about all the different components of Mr. Help and some other questions that are going to be in there too, some of the theories and some of the ideas, mental maps and stuff like that we're going to talk about today and some next week. Okay, so let's talk about place. A place is related to, that's the P in Mr. Help. Place is related to location, it's related to movement, because people can start out in one place and move to the next for particular reasons. And when we talk about place, we want to know characteristics. Characteristics of place, like physical features. Physical features in the natural environment. Physical features in the natural environment include, of course, some of the things that we've talked about using, modifying, adapting to, all of those other things when we were talking about movement or region or human environmental interaction or location. Physical features in the environment would be things like mountains, or what else? Cliffs, ridges, hills, trees, the vegetation that's on top of the earth. Yes, ridges. Yes, you will see in a lot of travel information. I'll talk a lot about like culinary and hospitality kind of stuff because I know that this is on the those degree plans, but I also just love those topics. When you look at tourist information, advertisements for you to go someplace. The other day I was looking at a brochure about visiting Portugal, and it said flower-covered hills, right? Miles of beaches, okay? These are explaining physical features that are attractions or physical features in some cases that you want to avoid, like quicksand, right? Or being lost in the desert without too many resources, okay? So these physical features on the environment, some geographers, some social scientists say that these physical features of the natural environment greatly affects or even controls completely human culture, okay? And that's called environmental determinism. Environmental determinism is a theory that a lot of geographers, a lot of social scientists, it used to be very, very popular, but it still is today, that the environment, the physical features, weather patterns, the season changes, all of that physical geography stuff that we talked about probably a week ago today, those things determine how humans are going to behave, how human culture is going to evolve. As a matter of fact, culture is one of the key terms in our chapter 1 also. Culture is, it's so hard. There are so many different really good definitions of culture. Usually when I start to write a definition of culture, it gets so long that I need to turn in a reaction paper for it. But anyway, it's culture is shared beliefs, traditions, values, ideas, attitudes, did I say traditions? All of these things that are shared and from, with the members of a general population in either a formal region or a perceptual region, and these concepts are transmitted from one generation to the next, okay? So culture we learn from birth from those around us, and environmental determinism would tell us that the origin of the behaviors, beliefs, customs, traditions, etc., the origins come from environment. That's what environmental determinism is. There's a famous anthropologist, his name is Marvin Harris, and he used ecological functionalism is the name of his, the name of the theory that he promotes, and he looked at the Hindu belief. Hindu is a religion and a people and a language that's common found in India, in Asia. And in Hindu, in that religious belief system, cows have a special function. Cows are part of the economic structure, part of the religious belief system. Cows are not included except for dairy products. Cow meat or anything like that, blood is not included in their diet in India. Even though there is a lot of poverty and a lot of meat on that animal, their belief system is governed by, in Marvin Harris's explanation, the environment that requires a lot of hard travel over the terrain, and cows produce oxen, male cows or big cows that can pull carts and transport people and get things from point A to point B. So without them, you couldn't provide as effective transportation movement across the terrain. And so there are some people that can take religious beliefs such as that prohibition of eating beef in India and link it right back to an environmental cause. Environmental determinism in general says that your physical place, the features within your region, within your location, governs the culture that arises from it. I'm going to open this door really quick, so I'm getting a little hot. Okay, questions. So environmental determinism, kind of, you can relate it to these physical features in part of place. And this is how we would describe, even in relative location, oh, it's the house right beside the great big oak tree. Okay, that vegetation and those physical features. Okay, so there are also human features to a place. Meaning what? Man-made features. So how have we modified our environment? So this place concept is linked right back to the human-environment interaction, because how have we modified our environment, the man-made features that we can find?
Well, there's places that sand doesn't grow anything, so you have to have water, and they dig large wells and bring water to places.
Like wells or build canals. Yes, I went to a very fascinating presentation about agriculture among the Hopi people in like Arizona and New Mexico. I don't know why I couldn't say that. And they were an agricultural people in an area where there was not a lot of arable land, what we call it, and they needed water. And they built an extensive canal system to bring water from the rivers that were available miles away from the rivers to where they wanted to modify the physical feature of really dry soil. Modify the physical feature of not having an aquifer or a stream or a lake or something. And so the Romans did this.
The beginning of the aquifer, which is their
aqueducts.
Architecture of that.
Absolutely, good example with Roman aqueducts and all of the ways that they used all of the hydrogeology. What'd you say?
Bridges.
Bridges, yes. So
Pyramids.
human features, great.
Mount Rushmore.
So this would include things like buildings. I'm thinking of all the buildings, bridges, roads. You named things like the pyramids and Mount Rushmore and things like this. You know, the artistic features or functional features like Stonehenge, for instance. So you might have a place that seems to have it's entirely composed of physical features, but then you walk over a rolling hill and you see a place like Stonehenge off in the distance, right? Where the physical environment has been modified by humans and brought in, I forget how many miles away those stones originated.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that were built. That built Stonehenge. But anyway, so buildings, bridges, roads. We mentioned caves could be a physical feature. Caves can also be a human feature, right? So we have to, when we are considering place, there are a lot of descriptions that we include similar to the way we conceptualize or have a perception of a region, or talk about relative location of something, like we discussed on Tuesday. Okay, the human features of an environment, let's relate that to another theory, and that one is called possibilism. What's the root word there? Possible or possibility, yes, not a trick question. So the root word here with possibilism is, in what way, this takes a departure from environmental determinism that says whatever we get in the natural environment, defines or determines literally what human culture is going to be. Possibilism, on the other hand, says that human beings are able to manipulate the environment for their benefit through innovations, inventions, and some sort of intellectual development of ideas. So whatever is possible in a human mind, human beings can modify the environment, can interact with those physical features in a way that makes it literally possible to do. Okay? So yeah, you have a desert where you don't have very much water, but you can build a canal system from the river that is close by, or maybe even miles away, and get water to that place. So the physical feature of very dry, infertile soil is now possible for you to have a huge agricultural society in that place, right? We talked about space travel. Have y'all seen the movie? Or a little bit. I mean, we didn't talk about science fiction space travel. We talked about the Virgin Atlantic and Tesla company, and I still haven't looked up that company in Japan that is building shuttles for you and I to take space cruises on, or for you to take space cruises on. I'm not going to do it. I will read about it, but I'm not going to do it. But have y'all seen the movie The Martian?
Yes.
Have y'all seen that movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
great movie.
I thought it was a great movie too. You haven't seen it? Okay, so I've seen it once, and so the beginning of it is Matt Damon is the Martian, and he goes to, guess where? Mars, okay, that has a physical environment, right? So it is a place, it has a physical environment, the temperature's really high. It's a completely different place with completely different physical features than Earth. And so when I think of possibilism and this concept that we are able to do anything that we set our mind to, regardless of what the environment tries to determine that we do, what all did he do after he was stranded there on Mars, right?
He grew food.
He figured out a way to, now he wasn't necessarily interacting with the physical environment outside his compound. What would you call that place where his compound, I guess. But he was able to modify the environment enough to grow food. What was it, potatoes or something? What was it
I
called?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was potatoes.
Yeah, potatoes, and make
Some other
make soil. Yeah, there were some other things that were in that movie also. But so even that movie, when it's talking about Mars, not talking about the Earth, we can use the principles of geography, we can use the theories, and look at these science fiction storylines and even evaluate. Using Mr. Help, we can evaluate those science fiction storylines. I'm mentioning that because your first project is going to be, you're going to pick like a video game or a movie or a TV show or a book or a news story or something like that. You'll have your choice, and you're going to analyze that particular storyline or news story with Mr. Help and answer certain questions, like questions about environmental determinism and the movie, or possibilism and the movie, or whatever it is that you choose. Okay? Alrighty. So, let me see. What I want to do now is show a video of an example of a guy who used Mr. Help to analyze Minecraft. Y'all play anybody do Minecraft in here? Okay, so this is an example, and so what I'm going to do for the online students is stop the video now in the face-to-face classroom, and we'll switch to the video that's on YouTube with a voiceover on it for you to go with this. So bye for now. You have another video to watch.